Man, good job, band. They did a great job this morning. Always do a great job. We're going to be in Psalms 13. So we were in 23 last week, so we are backtracking to 23. And if this was in the good old days, right? I guess the good old days has become another time frame for me. But if it was the good old days, you'd have to be rewinding it with the tape player, right? Like you have to and then you're like, nope, that's not it yet. Oh, too far. Fast forward. So we're going to go back. So Psalms of the summer. We were just walking through some Psalms and just trying to get our head back into the Lord and think through what the Lord has done in our lives and just really have the mind of Christ in our hearts and mind. And I really feel like that it's really been helpful for me personally. This psalm in particular deals with David, and he turns a song or his suffering into a song. You know, and some of the good songs, some of the great songs that we love, that they usually are a story behind it, and there's a sadness or something, or there's some times where I'm just melancholy and I just need to listen to sad music. It just makes me feel good, right? And just like, I don't know why, it just kind of connects with you in an emotional level. And so today we're going to just walk through this, and maybe a couple things that as I was reading this, the song title came to my mind as "Waiting is the Hardest Part," right? By Tom Petty, and that waiting for the Lord. Especially when you are starting to take faith steps, you're doing what God said. A lot of my life has been like, I've just kind of mind my own business, and God has really interrupted my life and has directed my life in certain ways that I didn't expect, or I didn't really want, or I didn't ask for. So I feel like that's where David, as he wrote this was, many believe that this was during the time that Saul was persecuting him. So David was a shepherd boy just minding his business, and God interrupted his life and and anointed him to be king. And so God set him up, and then it doesn't go as smoothly as he thought it should go, right? Like, isn't that just life? Like, you think, I'm going to do this, I'm going to accomplish these things for my life, and the road you think is like here to here, but it's like here, back this way, and God's got to do some work, You think of Joseph. We just kind of walked through Joseph a few weeks ago, and how he had expectations. Hey, one day you're all going to bow to me, and he wasn't wrong, but it wasn't the way he really wanted it to go, right? Like, it was a couple years in prison, some few years, being sold by his brothers. And so life has a way of doing that. And so so what do we do when we're disappointed by God, right? What do we do when we feel like God has led us this way, and then all of a sudden just kind of whacks you in the process, right? Like, you just kind of set you up to like, nope, not today, right? You feel like you get slam dunked. I don't know about you, but I do. And so David really begins to share his hurt, and he shares his hurt to God, which is the right place. So and that's really what we want to kind of think is, when you're hurt, I encourage you to bring it before God. Look at what David does. We'll read it, and then we'll kind of walk through it. So he says, how long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? You ever feel like you've just gone forever? It's like, how long will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I take counsel in my soul and have sorrow in my heart all day? How long shall my enemies be exalted over me? Consider and answer me, O Lord, my God. Light my eyes, lest I sleep the sleep of death, lest my enemies say, I have prevailed over him, lest my foes rejoice because of I'm shaken. I've trusted in your steadfast love, and my heart shall rejoice in your salvation. I will sing to the Lord because he has dealt bountifully with me. And so what we see here is David is suffering. He feels like God has led him away. Not only that, he says some things. He says, he says, have you forgotten me? Like, there's a lot of bad feelings in life, but the feeling of being forgotten is one of the worst, I feel like. When you're just forgotten. You're just not mentioned, you're just forgotten, and you feel like, man, what did I do? Maybe you're like looking at social media, and you're like, well, my friends went out, and you look at you're like, man, maybe I missed a text. Nope. Well, they're having a great time without me, right? Like, you just like, whoa, feel betrayed. Like, back in the day, it was like, I would find out you couldn't see it in real time. You would see it in, like, a couple days later. You'd find out your best friend invited another kid that you and him didn't like, and now he spent the night, and you're like, what happened, man? Thought we were good friends. And so you feel forgotten. Maybe someone's missed your birthday that you want. And again, it's usually you don't need everybody to forget. It doesn't really matter if everybody. It's that one person you want. And especially in his relationship, he's like, man, hey, will you forget me forever? And he's speaking to the Lord. When God forgets you, when we feel like God forgets us, that's a whole nother thing, right? Because, man, there's just a deepness of hurt and wound. Then he says, how long will you hide your face from me? Now, again, what comes to my mind is hide and seek, right? It's fun with your friends. It's fun it's fun. Maybe you ignore people, right? Like you see them, people you don't want to see, so you play hide and seek from them. You're in the grocery store, ignore them. You have your car, and you see Bob, and you're like, oh, there's Bob, and you like cut around, That's one thing, right? But when the Lord's hiding, when He's not there, when you're crying to Him, when you expect it, especially when you feel like God has led you down this road where now you just get whacked and hurt, man. And then this next part, he says, how long will I wrestle with my thoughts? How long will I wrestle with my thoughts? Man, when these kind of things happen, when you feel forgotten, when you feel like God's hid His face from you, man, your mind just takes an override, doesn't it? Like, it starts to go. I mean, it's like driving hard. It starts thinking. Like for me, I just start to think. A lot of times, my mind will overthink things, and that's where you don't get sleep. You start to really press through. You just really struggle with the reality that you don't have answers. And again, I feel like that really the issue is just not moving forward, right? And honestly, I can honestly say that this, for me personally, like, I love movement. I love seeing things start to take place. But when we stop, when things don't go like as planned, like, that's a killer for me, right? Like, and there's times where I'm, Lord, how long? And then I start, look, you led me down this way. I start to rethink, man, I got here, I got there. I shared the story about the intern house and how the Lord blessed with the opportunity to, the house was purchased, some monies came in for it. It was an idea that became a reality. And then a few weeks later, or a month later, Corona hit. And like, it just kind of shut everything out. Everybody's like, what's going on? And there was a part of me that's like, uh-oh, right? Like, oh no, what did this do? God, did you lead me here? Did you direct me here? And there was that feeling of, oh man, did I walk into something that now it's not going to happen? Why didn't you tell me this was coming before, right? Why didn't you just give me a little heads up? But no, just don't do it. Or did I not hear God's warning, right? Like, there's a lot of times things happen. And so you start to question, you start to think through, oh no, is this the right direction? And so David's crying. He's like, man, I feel like he felt like he was forgotten. Felt like God was playing hide and seek with him. And man, and then it says, and day after day have sorrow in my heart. Man, it's hard to function when you feel betrayed by God. It's hard to breathe that in. It's hard to enjoy the normal things. Because it's like, man, maybe today. And again, these are great moments because these are also really, you begin to, get perspective, but it's not fun. And so David's crying. He feels forgotten, he feels betrayed. And then and probably, I feel like just some vinegar on the wound, right? He says, how long will my enemies triumph over me? So the enemy is winning. Right? So here he is. He's you can get imagery. You think imagery behind this is I think of maybe you're just in a boat. And my dad one time took a sailboat. He was on a sail. And the fun thing about sailboats is you feel like you're like flying. Like you're going real fast, but then you look at it like it's a video. It's like you're just creeping along. But if that wind stops, you don't got wind. You're just kind of like, stuck. And have you noticed you think you can swim farther than you really can? Like, I can make that, You always think, we went and visited Crater Lake the other day, and my brother, or my cousin was like, I could swim that. It's like, I don't think you can, I don't think you can, And then part of me is wanting to, prove it, right? Like, but the idea is, look, there's no movement. And I feel like that maybe if that's where you are today, Like, I feel for you. I think this song here this morning is this inward struggles and these doubts are real. And I really just want you to kind of really breathe in that is a hard place to be. It's a hard place to be. But the truth is God's behind this hard place. God has led you this way. If you're there and that's where God's led you, like it is a place to be. And it is good to bring your cries to God. It's good to bring your cries, and that's what David does. But not only that, so we see the inward struggles and doubts, and that's really a strong area of doubts, right? Like you're like, oh, how long, Lord? Have you forgotten me? Hey, what about me? And then there's a little bit of, a pity party, right? You're like, oh, poor me. No one ever God doesn't understand, But God knows what he's doing, and there's a trust in there. But then there's also the outward dangers and difficulties. So he says, verse 3, he says, look on me and answer. He's like, look on me and give me something. Give me anything, right? I just need a little bit of, just give me a little glimmer of hope. He says, Lord, my God, or give light to my eyes, or I'll sleep in death. And my enemy will say, I have overcome him, and my foes will rejoice when I fall. Probably the worst thing that can happen to, where you think about it, I think if I was reading, we've been reading through the Old Testament this first part of this year, and one thing I noticed is, remember when the Ark of the Covenant was taken, and it was just like when it was really a terrible thing. Eli had died, like it was taken, and there just felt like a hole in your gut, like man, it's like hope is dead. And when something happens to somebody that's a champion for the Lord, or somebody that's living for faith, and they're living by faith, and they're seeking the Lord, and when they fall, and when they stumble, or when they get tripped up, or something happens to them, there's just a part of you that's like, oh man, if that person can't. One thing I often say is greater men than us, greater men and women than us have fallen. And he's like, man, what joy, what glory does that give you, God? What joy does it give you if you're not going to hear me, if you're not going to, you led me down this way, you're not going to answer me? What joy does that give you? And so you can tell that David is very sorrowful, very hurt, feels this dangers. If it was in the context where Saul was trying to kill him, like Saul's whipping out, spears thrown at him when he's playing the harp, it's kind of mean, right? Like that's not really good. And then he has opportunities, and it's not moving the speed that David believes it should. And of course, we know more than God, right? He absolutely should listen to me, right? Of course we know that. But again, it doesn't make the hurt go away, right? The hurt is real. So again, I want to confirm and just affirm in your heart that this is a real spot and a healthy spot. It's okay to be hurt. It's okay to not feel, to not be happy. Do you know that? It's okay not to be happy. It's okay to allow realities to set in. It's okay to trust the Lord in those hard moments. That's what he says. But then, so we look inwardly, and we struggle with doubts. We see outward, we see difficulties and dangers. But then we look up, and that's really the purpose of all this. We look up. He says, but I will trust in your unfailing love. So maybe in the middle of this song, he starts to think about how good God is, and how good God is to him, and how much he loves him. And so I will trust in your unfailing love. My heart rejoices in your salvation. Often what happens to me when things like this go, and they happen often, it's probably seasonal, right? Like it's seasonal, comes in seasons, where it feels like, and usually it's when everything else is going well, or everything's going good, is when I feel the worst, right? Like it just seems like it's opposite of what everybody else is doing. It just feels like you're all alone. But there's that point where you have to really breathe in the reality of how good God is. Even in the worst what we've had, God's been faithful and good in those bad times. And I think his presence there. And he's like, your unfailing love. The truth is that no matter what, this is the thing that I really build my life on, is that Jesus loves me. Like really, that truly is the core of that is the song of my life. That no matter what happens in my life, and guess what? Days of sorrow, days of doubt and struggle, days of difficulty, days of loss are coming my way and coming your way. There's no doubt that we will all face trials and difficulties that will shut us down for a season. But we can know that he says, your unfailing love, my heart rejoices in your salvation, and I will sing the Lord's praise. I will sing the Lord's praise. So he took this sorrowful moment. He took this sad moment in his life, and he flipped it around, and he began to think upwardly. And he's like, no, God, it's you, and I love you, and I appreciate you, and I'm thankful for all that you do. Your love is always there for me, no matter what. There is no, it never fails. Like, so I may have good days and bad days. You love me the same. Man, that is a great thing to think, that God doesn't, it's not based on your behavior. It's not based on, well, you're not good today, so my love's about 60%. Ooh, today was a great day. It's about 85, you know? It's not that. It's not like the temperature. It's consistent. It's faithful. And he says, in this way, look what I love, he just kind of sums it up. And I kind of think of him crying, weeping, comes to an end, and he's like, for he has been good to me. For he has been good to me. And he gets up and he wipes his face and he just knows that God's good. Man, I'm telling you, this really is just encouraging in a lot of ways, because we can take our sadness, we can take our disappointments. But later on in John chapter 11, actually there was a cover track of this same kind of song. So we're going to follow along like where David's heart is, but there's another illustration when Jesus was in his earthly ministry, when he was actually here on earth. There was some people that he loved and cared for that sang this same cover song. But guess what? They learned the same lesson that David learned. And so you're very familiar with it. Maybe with Lazarus. Even if you don't know your Bible, you've heard about Lazarus coming from the dead. And so Lazarus was one of Jesus' good friends. He was one of his good friends. And so was Mary and Martha, his sisters. And they lived in Bethany and lived in a little 3-bedroom apartment. It was a really cute place. No, I'm kidding. I don't know that. But anyway, the idea was they lived in Bethany. Jesus was great friends. Mary was actually the one that dumped the oil over Jesus' feet and wiped it with her hair, which was a huge sacrifice, and also just shared like her love and devotion. They loved Jesus, and the truth is he loved them. They were close friends. Well, Lazarus gets sick, so when someone gets sick in your life, the first thing you do is you go and you tell them, right? You tell them. And Jesus does the worst thing you could ever do as a pastor is he's like, well, let's go, let's hang out for a while. They said, Lazarus is sick. He doesn't really move. He's not really affected by that. He tells his disciples, like, hey, Lazarus is, and you should read this. It's really kind of interesting. He tells them, like, Lazarus he's asleep. And they're like, well, if he's asleep, won't he feel better when he wakes up? He's going to get a good night's sleep. He doesn't feel good. No, and then finally he's like, look, Lazarus is dead. And they're like, oh, but they waited. So from the time they heard and the time he arrives to go help them, it's 4 days. It's 4 days. He waits. And so what do you think Mary and Martha are feeling during that delay? I think they were singing David's song, right? They had those struggles and doubts. Man, maybe he didn't hear him. Maybe they didn't get word to him. Maybe he doesn't understand what kind of situation this is. Maybe he doesn't, he doesn't understand. Or, man, surely he understands. And man, like David said, their thoughts were going, right? Where was he? And then we know this to be true because later on they say to him, it's like, man, Lord, if you would have been here, both of the sisters said, if you would have been here, you could have healed Lazarus. You could have helped us. You could have helped us. And so sorrow has flooded their heart. They have doubts and they're confused. And here Jesus is kind of doing his own thing. Now, he knows more than they do. He knows what he can do, and they only have an idea of what he can do. They don't really understand they're going to see what fully he can do, right? But here they're saying that there's that inward, and then the dangers, right? So probably when they first found he was sick, they're like, okay, maybe he's going to do better, and so they're just kind of waiting, and maybe Jesus would show up at the nick of time. That guy has great timing, and then no Jesus, and waiting is the hardest part, isn't it? Just waiting and know. Maybe you got some bad news that this test didn't look good or this situation doesn't look good. And so now you're like, and it seems like, so now you're in panic mode. You want the doctors in on it and you want to get it done. But they're like, well, okay, we can get you next, 3 months from now, we can get you in for a test. It's like, don't you understand? Don't you get it? And especially, listen, if you're good friends with Jesus, on paper, that looks pretty good, right? Like if Jesus was your best friend, you're not going to go hungry in the desert, right? You're going to see some cool stuff. Like there's some good benefits to that. And it says that they love Jesus and he loved it. And so Then, so he shows up. They're like, man, if you would have been here. Only if you would have been here. And so there's this doubt so where David was singing of dangers, that his life was threatened, they were thinking of those difficulties, that now they have to bury their brother. And, man, they just don't understand why Jesus didn't respond the way he did. Begin to question all those things. Why didn't that happen that way? Why didn't he do this way? And then your thoughts become your enemies, and you're fighting them all night. And you just don't understand, and you're sorrowful. And then Jesus shows up, and he starts to cry. He weeps. He weeps. He cared for Lazarus. He loved him. And this is what this verse always reminds me is he loves the people that I love more than I love them. He loves them. And even if Lazarus didn't live, Jesus, we can still trust him, but Jesus was about to do something more than that. And so these Alfred, so what they begin to do is he asks them a great question. He asks a great question. He says in verse, he tells them, I'm the resurrection and the life. So he shows up, he says, hey, Martha, he's like, I'm the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die. And whoever lives by believing in me will never die. Do you believe this? So he asks, so the situation, and really through this song, so David sang it early. He's the writer of it, and here they're singing. They did the cover track, and what they're doing is their sorrows of life are real, and the difficulties and confusion. We don't understand why God allows certain things. We don't know. We don't know. There's situations where I watch and I see. I remember watching this thing where this little girl got ran over by a car, and you just wonder why that. And here the drug dealer or the pedophile or somebody surviving and doing and thriving. You wonder these things, these difficulties and these dangers, and you struggle with that. But what this really is telling us is we can take these sorrows, we can bring them into our heart and share to God and ask those great questions. Where are you, God? Listen to me. And he hears. And so he says, man, and she said to him, she's like, yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, who's come. And so what happens is Jesus does far more than they could have ever imagined. And that's what God's doing. God is redeeming the world to himself. Doesn't feel like it sometimes. Doesn't feel like it. Feels like, man, he just let this thing, just kind of let her go. It's like, well, let's see. No, it's not. God is very real, and he's very active. And he's working in your sorrows, in your lives, in the world's lives, in our community's lives, in our country's life. He's working in the world. He's going to accomplish his purpose and plan. And so just like this, as they begin to realize, and Jesus basically stops the crowd. He stops the crowd and brings Lazarus forth. And then from that moment, those his enemies were like, man, we got to get rid of this guy because we can't stop it, right? You're raising dead people back to life. Like, there is no stopping you. And so little did they know that they were about to walk back into God's plan even more, right? They were going to try to stop him, and God, you can't keep him down. You can't keep God down. God has a plan, and it's beyond our understanding. And so what we want to do is we want to take our sorrows. We want to allow God to use it. And you know what? Really, these wounds and these hurts and these expectations, the reason why we have these expectations is because God's good blessings in our lives. Right? It's because God's led us down this way. Because David was anointed king. And God's like, you are my king, and I will do what I'm going to make a great mighty nation out of you. I'm going to do great things with you, David. And here he believed God, and he trusted God. And now he's like, but guess what? I got to grow you a little bit. And we're like, no. I don't want to be grown. I just want to get me the paper that says I'm grown, right? I don't want to actually have to function and trust. And so this is the trick about living a life of faith. It is a life of faith. It is a life of faith. And so again, I just encourage you to take your sorrows. And some of you have some real hard ones. Some of you walking with you, some of you have some difficulties I don't know. But they're not my sorrows, they're yours. And truly they are God's gift to you. To bring and this is what the beautiful thing about this whole song, is he was so focused on the reality of the difficulties, the dangers in his own heart, but then he began to look up. He's like, man, you've been good to me. You've been good to me. And if this is what you have for me, you've been good to me. You've been good to me. And so we can just trust the Lord. We can allow God to use this. And so as we sing to him, as we praise him, as we love him, as we tell him that we are grateful for what he's done in our life, as we just give him honor and praise because he is worthy. So let's